long did it take you to start really implementing, or at least realizing, okay, this patient's probably coming to me for, they're driving 20 minutes every day to get here, and then 40 minutes with me, and then 20 minutes back. And so,
Yeah.
when
Took
did you
me
start realizing it?
almost like 8 or 9 years in practice before I really started to realize because I don't think in the beginning part of building a practice, you're so focused on logistics and all these other things that sometimes you lose sight of like what's really occurring in the dynamics of the psychology of when I first start working with a person. And so it almost took me, I was successful in those first 8 or 9 years, but I started working with sales trainers and communication coaches, people that really know how to communicate and create influence in how they communicated. And it took me 9 years of practice to realize that like it is the whole entire success in business is based on communication. It is, whether you're communicating to patients or customers, or you're communicating to your staff, or you're communicating to yourself, it's all your success is directly proportional to how well that you can communicate. So a lot of these things I never noticed early on, or I didn't have time to look at just because I didn't know.
Right.
Like you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of times it takes timing and the right coach to come into your life before you start to learn on these things. And had that coach come to me first year in practice, there's no way I would have been open to it, because in the first year of practice, I was just learning I was learning insurance billing and like all the logistic stuff, scheduling, all that, you know, early in business, we're such bad communicators because you come out of school and we think that it's one thing, and then you realize, like, man, I don't really know anything, or at least that feels that way. And that's part of the process, by the way. It's part of the process of like feeling uncomfortable and feeling like you don't know anything. Um, that leads to continued growth. It's like
Yeah.
you have to go through those periods of not feeling like you know enough and not having the confidence that motivates you to learn more and to become a better communicator, a better clinician. You mentioned it. I was thinking about it. It was like we all generalize in school, and then when we get out, we figure out what we really like. So we go and specialize, or we take continuing education. And then really the education process starts when you get out of school, because then you have to figure out, like, what do I really love about all this, and what do I want to specialize in? So you get more learning and more information about what you really want to specialize and focus on. And the same thing happened, and that could, from a clinical standpoint. From a business standpoint, you have to do the same thing. Like, you have to go in and you have to learn how to organize people, how to lead a team, how to build it out and create the dream that you want to create. That takes training from management, from leadership, and marketing and sales, and all that stuff takes continuing education. So I, the one current theme that if you want to say, like, in the 20 years you've been out of school, and I've done several different businesses, and I'm constantly in my business coaching mastermind. Most of these guys are all 7-figure practice owners, and they own multiple 7 figures practices. And the one current theme I've always seen is there's one, maybe two, but the one is this continue yearning to learn more. Like this, if there's one thing that I've seen among the most successful people that I've known, is there's an insatiable thirst for more learning and more growth. And so there's almost this humility. I mean, in the most successful people I've seen are usually the most humble, and the least successful people are usually the biggest a-holes, or they have the biggest egos, right? You ever found that? So you're like, I've met billionaires before, and people that have, extremely successful, and when you meet them, they're just so humble. And they don't need to be, but they're just that way because I think they realize how much work goes into growing and to continue to be successful. The people that come off with the most ego and have short-term success, and short-term is like they may do one business and be successful, but like everything else they've tried fails, or they go through this period where, like, maybe for 6 months I might have success, or 1 year I have a good year, but they fail miserably in other areas. There's this point where they have really big egos and they just stop learning, and they're just like, I don't, I've gotten everything that I need. I'm at a good safe space, and I don't need to learn anymore. And that's like the biggest recipe for disaster. And it doesn't matter whether it's the business owner or the staff members. Anybody in an organization that feels like they know everything needs to be like, you need to get rid of them.